Strap yourselves in, folks. We've got a massive 20 versus 20 battle coming excuse me, at you today. Still a little under the weather, as you can tell. Yeah, we've got Vampire Coast versus Beastmen, which is certainly quite an interesting matchup. This replay submitted by Calamity here. He's going in hot and wild with Silostra Deerfan, or however she pronounces it for herself. Yeah, looking for some Tide Call, Spiteful Shot, Ghosts of the Past, that is the Damned Knights Errant. Gonna be looking for that terror-causing ethereal summon as well. Front line of deckhands, we've got some zombie bombers up in the sky. Yeah, plenty of handguns, shotguns, looks like animated hulks on the side, night terrors in the center, along with the Lamprey's Revenge. Let's take a look at the Beastmen's. Looks like Centaur's out on the flanks. We've got some Bestigor herd mixed in, along with Ungor herd. Spears and regular Ungor herd. We've got some raiders as well. Harpies up in the sky, backing up Malagor the Dark Omen. And a nice wide stance here from the Beastmen. Pestigors in the center. I like the mix of Pestigors, Bestigors, all the Estigors. Yeah, looking pretty good here. We, of course, should see Slongors, not that they announced that officially, with their little announcement they did recently. They confirmed Kala, right, is the legendary lord coming for Slanesh. It's a Sneck lady. And, yeah, they're also going to have another unit of Sneck dudes. Things, I guess. Yeah, it should be interesting, but, yeah, we should see some Slangors at some point, I would imagine, given the sort of precedent set by all the other Monogods, the DLCs so far. But anyway, that's in the future. For today, you can see the Raiders already get a volley and get terrified away as Silostra is going to pop up, do some fancy singing and dancing, and no doubt summoning up knights here in just a second. Vampire Coast take a very cinematic, kind of defensive, circle the wagons position here. Excuse me. And yeah, gonna get things going. Bombers getting the work done. Range damage starting to impact a number of different units, but the Beastmen still have plenty of numbers to shoot those gaps, get in the back line, start to shut down some of these troops. We've got that Flock of Doom as well. Going to be doing some really efficient damage to these big pockets of lots of units. You might even say blobs, but they're not overly blobbed up too much right now. Most units are kind of operating independently, able to fire, create some nice different firing lanes, and continue feasting there. Silostra is, of course, ethereal, so she's going to get some significant physical resistance, but still 0 armor and relatively low HP. Just have to be a little bit careful. But the damn Knights Errant here in the back line, helping to keep some of these units terrified away. Vampire Coast able to defend to a reasonable degree so far, but the Lamprey's Revenge a little bit out of position as they need to be closer. Yeah, you can see them kind of closing on the woods here where there's these other monstrous infantry trying to hold. Over on the Vampire Coast left flank, things are going a lot less good as Centaurs and other units collapse down, take out these shotguns and handguns, and start to roll up, overrun into the next levels. Yeah, you can see the black spot there with their bayonets fixed, ready to try and defend, but now it looks like the Centaur is wisely going to pick a different target, or perhaps even just get caught up there, but Bestigor is also rushing through the front line, hitting those shotguns now. These handguns getting tied down by Bestigor herds, so yeah, the fact that the Beastmen brought in some elites here, they have a little bit more leadership, a little bit more HP. Even if the armor doesn't necessarily apply against the armor piercing of the handguns, or these knights for that matter either, they're going to get a nice charge in here, but very bad timing. They all fall down right before these Bestigor herds are going to terror rout. That's pretty bad. They're going to instead hanging in the fight and probably finish off these gunner mobs here. Yeah, the black spot do manage to get free, get a really nice volley into the side of those Bestigor herd. Could be quite uncomfortable for them, but their bayonets only apply against large, so the Harpies sweeping down, counting as infantry, are going to be able to tie them down just fine. Spiteful Shot there for a little extra accuracy. Nice to see. But will it be enough? Yeah, these handguns managed to get free. Night Terrors, Animated Hulk, so the Coast definitely has some units kind of surviving out on this far flank here. But for the time being, it's looking pretty tough. These bombers got caught out of position by multiple raiders, and they're going to be brought down. So definitely anyone's game still. That Flock of Doom in this late game. It's going to be pretty devastating considering the coast has no method of healing. Of course, they brought only Lore of the Deeps with Silostra, and there's no Lore of Vampires for Invocation of Nehek, or any other source of passive healing other than the units that just have it themselves, like these Lamprey's Revenge, so definitely going to have to rely on them in this late game. Silostra is looking relatively vulnerable here. Malagor is a much better combatant than her, just all the way around. You know, even with the armor piercing and the charmed and everything else taken into account, Malagor doesn't even have magic damage, but still I would imagine should be able to outduel Silostra no problem, especially if he can get a favorable engagement. Looks like he's going to swoop down here. And Lamprey's Revenge are not in a position to try and protect her right now, so she's forced to kind of run across the field here. Doesn't have the crab summons either. Yeah, no summons or anything left at this point, so a little bit of a rough situation. Definitely should run Silostra back and just hide in the Lamprey's Revenge at this point. Try and group up whatever units are left. But at the same time, Lamprey's Revenge themselves are running in to try and save the black spot if they can. Doesn't look like they'll be able to. Nice Flock of Doom should finish things off there. Night Terrors also swoop in. They're going to try and path through and get to where they can protect Silostra. But again, there's not very many of them left. Really, the best chance for her to be saved at this point is to try and get to those Lamprey's Revenge, but a little bit of a tide call there. Going to reduce the speed of those Ungors, do some nice, efficient damage. Night Terrors arrived to stagger Malagor. She's going to go try and rout those Ungor Raiders, who had got a really nice volley straight to the face of the Ghost Lady. But the Night Terrors will move in. They'll do some damage against Malagor, certainly. But they're being followed up here by some Ungor Spears and Bestigors. Look like they might even be getting their charge bonus again, which is definitely not something you want. Bestigor herds 30 charge, even with their very tired status, is insane for an infantry unit. And when they're applying that charge bonus on their attack animations, in that first few seconds after the charge, they get a huge damage and attack spike, given how many unit models they have. Let's see, Lamprey's Revenge is going to continue to try and grind. Comes down to the Pestigors and the Bestigors, pretty much. This is a situation where you really need this armor-piercing damage, and Lamprey's Revenge, I mean, it's a unit that's strong enough to warrant you bringing these armor-piercing units just because of them, right? Like their own individual power level. And now being collapsed multiple sides by Bestigor. You got this little one proc and that rear charge bonus here as they get in from the other side. Looks like the Pestigor and the other Bestigor might rout. Silostra unleashes one more Tide Call, but yeah, that's a Flock of Doom hitting there as Malagor himself vanquishes a few Morn Ghouls. Gonna get some Ungor Spears in here for support. They'll take a bloody charge there, but then stand up and get their savage little bestial pokes. And yeah, you can see the Lamprey's Revenge crumbling out there. Silostra arrives, try and proc a terror out, just a little bit too late to save them. Malagor swoops in. He's going to get a couple of jabs in here, and I'd imagine that'll be all she wrote. Or indeed, the fat lady does sing, and that means it is over. What a turn of phrase. Anyway, maybe, just maybe Silostra gets a giant terror out here and wins. You've got this animated Hulk coming out of nowhere. Ooh, Lamprey's Revenge do crumble out, though. And Silostra takes a big hit there behind the banner. He's going to start crumbling. And yep, that's army loss as soon as she goes. So it ends up being super close, actually, at the end there. A very, very close game, it must be said. But Calamity narrowly taking the loss. And a big thanks to him for submitting a loss. It's, you know, not everyone is willing to do that. So I always appreciate when people do. And yeah, Silostra herself, considering how cheap she is, just, you know, on foot in quotations. You know, she's not really running around. She's more floating around. But anyway, quite cost-effective, all things considered. Yeah, across the board here, the handguns actually do a pretty good job paying for themselves. The shotguns have a little bit tougher of a time. I almost wonder if they wouldn't have been better served just having straight bombers in that position instead, like infantry bombers. The bat bombers also, yeah, they did okay. They didn't quite pay for themselves in terms of raw DPS, but ultimately, Lamprey's Revenge, Night Terrors were almost able to hold out there for the win. I love the pick of the black spot, too. They end up doing some really nice work. I also like the pick of Bestigors. Three of them, actually, over 1,000 damage value. 1,400, almost 1,500 on one of them. That is quite impressive stuff for the old Bestigors. Definitely claiming their place as the best. And then we've got the fifth one, Pestigor, just kind of here as well. But still contributing some nice value. Of course, Malagor the Dark Omen also just an absolute beast right now. It isn't. The one thing is he doesn't have Traderkin. That would have definitely put a hurt on Silostra if he had a caster with Traderkin, but nonetheless ends up still getting the win with it, so really hard to argue with that. I do like the full 20 stack of Beastmen, though. It just brings a lot of power and a lot of oomph and some different things you can do. And yeah, the best scores actually proved quite effective in this matchup, which I love to see. So hopefully you enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.